Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Akulon here, and welcome back to each one of you. And of course, if you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us. I am very happy to have you here. If you are new, of course, remember to hit that subscribe button for more content like this one. And for everyone else, please take a look just down below this video. There's a little thumbs up button. What I want you to do now is focus on that button. Look at it intensely. Staring intensifies more and more. Think about it as an anime almost, as if I'm not mistaken. You have this whole fucking light thing coming out of your head. You're looking at it, and then finally you smash it and you turn it blue. And if you don't do that, I will start an OnlyFans and I will force you to look at new pictures of me. So what do you have to lose? You'll literally gain everything by hitting the like button. I don't get it. Smash the like button. It does help out a ton. Of course, in today's video, we are talking about the top 5 things, the features in Final Fantasy that World of Warcraft can really look at and can really borrow from Final Fantasy in order to, in my opinion, create an even better World of Warcraft experience. Now, I want to be clear right off the bat, nothing in this video is meant to say that World of Warcraft needs to adopt all of the things that I have mentioned in this video. None of it is to say that World of Warcraft doesn't have its own identity and shouldn't keep its own identity. But oftentimes it's important whenever you are a creative person. As a YouTuber, I do this all the time. I do it with SkillShare quite a lot, and more on our sponsor for the video a little bit later. But it's necessary for you to find inspiration from other places and then bring that inspiration and see how can you incorporate it into your own game. And these are the 5 things that I think World of Warcraft can absolutely start looking at. So I do hope that you will follow me on Twitch if you want to get more live conversations like this, because a lot of these things we do discuss very much live. And for those of you that want even more World of Warcraft lore and just behind the scenes footage and early access and all the rest of it, follow me over on Patreon. Your support does mean the world to me. With that said, a word from our sponsors, SkillShare. SkillShare, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. SkillShare is an online learning platform where you can join millions of people around the world learning about everything that you care about. Literally, there is an unlimited amount of classes: home improvement, self-improvement, business success, personal success. Hell, I'm imagining that you can literally find anything on SkillShare. In fact, SkillShare is so confident in their product that they have just decided to give the first 1,000 people that click the link in the description down below 1 month free premium trial membership to try it out and see if you like it. The only thing you have to lose is knowledge, and that's not a good thing to lose. Take myself, for example. I am currently using SkillShare to go through a new bend that I have. I want to learn how to script. I want to do a couple of scripted videos every once in a while, see how it goes. I want to try it out. I like trying new things. So I'm doing this class called YouTube Success, Script, Shoot, and Edit, and it's presented by Marquise Brownlee, and it is absolutely amazing. It teaches you how to do research from a script perspective, how to order your script, how to ensure that the flow works, how to finally write the script. Once the script is written, what do you want to do after that? How do you want to set up the shooting of the script? I didn't know that there's so much that goes into actually scripting a YouTube video. I thought you just write stuff. And so this is literally how every class on SkillShare is presented. It's absolutely amazing. You have nothing to lose. So just click the link, try it out, see if it is for you. And with that said, let's jump into the video. Now, just before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the video, allow me to just say, check out the timeline down below. You will find that the video has been marked for you. If you want to jump to different areas in the video because you think I talk too much, because I do talk a lot, and you don't really care, you just want to hear some of the things, you're more than welcome to do so. Your time is important to me, so you know, search to your heart's content. I do believe that you should listen to the whole of the video because I do think that everything I say is important. But then again, everyone thinks that everything they say is important, and oftentimes most things people say aren't important. So I guess make up your own mind. Do you like what I have to say or don't? You can just skip around. It doesn't bother me. Truly, it doesn't. Now, just to get to what I believe the main purpose of this video is, it's not about being negative and just being a negative Nelly. It's about feedback, constructive criticisms, creative borrowing is something that every single creative does. I will oftentimes find myself looking at other videos, and those videos will spark ideas in my own content. And if I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm stagnating, because it's not possible for one person or for one company to have all of the good ideas. Sometimes other people will come up with different ideas because they're in different worlds, they're in different countries, they have different experiences than you. So it's important to look beyond your own windows to those outside and learn from their mistakes. And currently I feel like World of Warcraft, and Blizzard specifically, is in a sort of bubble. They've trapped themselves inside this feedback loop where every single time there is a problem or a thing, a new expansion, a new game, it follows the same trends as all of the mistakes that was made in the past, rather than learning from it. So this is constructive criticism in things that I would love to see added in one way or another in World of Warcraft. We're not talking about full-blown copies of it. I'm simply saying borrow from Final Fantasy that which works. Look, there's a reason why Final Fantasy is making such a big comeback at the moment, why so many people are rushing to Final Fantasy, and why so many people are enjoying Final Fantasy, myself included. Full disclosure, I'm loving my Final Fantasy playthrough. It was a bit rough at the start, but once you get over the first 30 levels, it becomes really fun, and there's a lot that I think can be learned from that experience. Character focus and world building. In many ways, this is one of the things that I feel World of Warcraft has gotten so very wrong over basically all of its expansions. When World of Warcraft first started, what you were a foot soldier in the Horde or in the Alliance. That was it. You had no hero status, you weren't really the hero. Over time though, as things have progressed, you've become the hero of Azeroth. You've been presented as one of the strongest champions on Azeroth. And a lot of players don't like this. Now, let's contrast this to what happens in Final Fantasy, and then I will explain why I think there's such a big disconnect, why I think so many players are hankering or want the old game style where you're just a normal foot soldier in either the Horde or in the Alliance. In Final Fantasy, it is very clear from the very get-go that you are the hero. You are the bringer of light. You are a very important person within this world. And every single quest that you do, especially the main story quests, build upon this. You are included in every single in-game cinematic. You're spoken about. Your heroics are sung about. You're told how the world is looking up to you, and in many ways they do these small little things. For example, running into the Waking Sands and people are standing there clapping their hands at your great feats. These are things that they do to sort of prop you up. They ensure that you are treated as the hero. In many ways, this is where World of Warcraft falls flat. Because while World of Warcraft pretends that you are the hero, you are told that you are the hero, in many ways you are not. You are only the hero insofar as whenever they mention you and they call you the champion of Azeroth. But when you look at the actual things that you do, if you look at your actual involvement in the world, you oftentimes don't feel like the hero. And this is actually what I believe is the biggest reason why people are sort of calling back the days of us being just the foot soldier. Because of that disconnect, it's almost as if you're pretending in World of Warcraft to be the hero, yet nothing supports the fact that you are called the hero. You don't always feel like you're the hero, and we're gonna get more into this when we talk about the quest design, which is number 2, the second reason, or the second feature that I wish Blizzard would involve or borrow from Final Fantasy. But at no point in time does it feel like your hero status is substantiated within Final Fantasy, within World of Warcraft. Next up, the world building within Final Fantasy is done tremendously well. But this is actually one of the only features that I believe World of Warcraft does better. And I thought that it was important to include also some of the good things that World of Warcraft does. With World of Warcraft, world building is absolutely insane. Look at all of the books, look at all of the lore, look at how large the lore has become, and all of that is part of world building. Whereas within Final Fantasy, at least where I am now, I'm level 53, I believe it is. I'm in Heavensward, I've just entered that expansion. So the story is still extremely small and linear. It might open up later on, but for now, that's sort of where the story is. However, in World of Warcraft, you get past vanilla and you see that there is a massive story on the horizon already. So I do think World of Warcraft has the edge here. The problem is in the disconnect. You see, in Final Fantasy, the world building connects directly to the story, to your story. You are the one that builds the world. In World of Warcraft, you simply go along for the ride. You're just there. The world builds itself. The story moves at its own pace. You are simply there. And this is another thing that I think World of Warcraft could learn from Final Fantasy. How do you make the player the central part of your story? Quest design, and much of the quest design thing actually also flows alongside world building, as well as character design and character focus within Final Fantasy. But very specifically, when we talk about the quest design in Final Fantasy, the quests do not waste your time. And I'm not talking about the side quests, they do waste a lot of your time. The main storyline quests, very rarely, so you do get sent out sometimes to kill X number of things. It's usually 4, sometimes 5, at most 6. You kill the 6 things, you're done, you go back, but every single time you are sent out to kill X number of things, it's not because you're simply wasting time. These things are required in order to move the story forward. So you will have to collect something. This thing that you now collect is used to build something else that is part of the next storyline, of the next quest that you're going to get. So again, you are part of the moving chain. Compare this to World of Warcraft. So very often in World of Warcraft, you're sent out to kill 10 of X, 20 of Y, maybe collect 5 of something. And once you've done that, none of that is used to actually do anything. You were simply sent there to basically time gate you before you can pick up the next quest. It doesn't really translate. There's no connection between the thing that you just had to do versus the thing that's continuing, right? Sometimes they do that very well. In Shadowlands, for example, the leveling really came a very long way, especially when you do the kill one thing, right? So this boss needs to be killed or this mini boss needs to be killed. That is oftentimes, but in Final Fantasy, or that is how World of Warcraft does it correctly. The difference is in Final Fantasy, almost every single main storyline quest feels exactly like that. Your time does not feel wasted. In fact, you oftentimes look forward to doing it because you want to see what the story is going to flow into, what's going to come next. What is this thing that you're ultimately building? What is this thing working towards? The MSQ, and I'm literally just talking about A Realm Reborn. People tell me it gets far better in Heavensward and all the other expansions. So I'm not even there yet. I'm just talking about A Realm Reborn. The MSQ doesn't feel like a time gate. You are the one that moves the story forward. The story does not simply exist and you are the one looking at it. The example that I will use here for people is a painter versus a viewer. In World of Warcraft, you are looking at the paintings as you're walking through the gallery that is World of Warcraft. In Final Fantasy, you are painting these paintings. You are the one painting them, and then you get to look at them after you're done. Whereas oftentimes in World of Warcraft, you feel more like a spectator, like you're just along for the ride, versus actually being the one that powers the ride. Which is something that I think Blizzard can absolutely learn from Final Fantasy. Make the player part of the story. Embed us into this world that you've created, this fantastic world that we all so desperately want to be a part of. Make us part of your world, Blizzard. Invite us in and let us move your story. Rather than us killing 10 things, coming back and then watching a cutscene of how the story has progressed since we've gotten back from killing 10 things. Make my 10 things mean something. allow my 10 things to actually be the necessary component that moves the story forward ever more. This is something that I wish Blizzard would absolutely learn from Final Fantasy, and perhaps it takes a little bit of playing Final Fantasy to actually learn this. Class design. Now, let me be very clear here. I'm not quite certain why I love the class design for Final Fantasy as much as I do. And just before people start going, oh my god, dude, Final Fantasy is so slow, what the fuck are you talking about? Allow me to be very clear. You will oftentimes hear these arguments that, oh my god, Final Fantasy has a 2.5 second global cooldown, the game is so slow it feels horrible. But those are extremely fallacious arguments, because they ignore the fact that Final Fantasy has just as many abilities that is completely off the global cooldown. The whole point of Final Fantasy is you're weaving. So you're using a global cooldown ability, weaving that into an off global cooldown ability, then using a global cooldown ability again. Oftentimes the playstyle for Final Fantasy becomes ridiculously fast because these abilities are instant, they trigger immediately, and they're not on the global cooldown. So you're constantly weaving your abilities in and out. But when I talk about class design and the things that I loved in Final Fantasy and love so far is while you're leveling, it's so rewarding. There is so much that goes into the leveling process, and here's where things get truly miraculous when it comes to Final Fantasy: the actual leveling of your class. So I started as a gladiator. Gladiator eventually morphs into the paladin job. Now, first and foremost, you can change classes at max level to your heart's content. Now, one of the reasons I think Final Fantasy did this and why I don't think World of Warcraft should necessarily go that direction is in Final Fantasy there are no specs. So when you're a paladin, you can't be a healer and a DPS and a tank. You are a tank. This is what paladins do. If you're a raid mage, for example, from what I've learned, you can do some DPS, there's some healing for you as well. Black mages, every single class in the game or job in the game has a very specific niche. So when you're playing that, that's what you play. However, to swap jobs, you simply swap your weapon. Just pick up a new weapon and bam, you are now a brand new job. And how do you level this? Well, the leveling process for jobs in order to unlock skills is actually extremely interesting. So as a paladin, you start off with this, and I'm not going to do any spoilers here for those of you that do want to try it out, but you start off on this almost mystery that you have to uncover. And every step along the way of you proving yourself and moving closer to uncovering this mystery, you are granted more and more powers in the form of abilities, sometimes in the form of gear that is granted to you in order to ensure that you can go to the next level, that you can continue the story of the paladin. Every single character, every single job will have a completely unique story in Final Fantasy. So if you're a paladin versus a red mage, you two are going to have completely different stories when it comes to your class. Your MSQ will still be exactly the same, but for your class, there is a very different story, and it reminds me of the days of the class order rolls, where every single class in Legion had sort of its own little bend of story, a story that was completely unique and different to every other class in World of Warcraft. In Final Fantasy, this is true from level 1, and it remains true all the way through. Every single class has its own unique story. The classes also feel rewarding. They have a very different combat system to World of Warcraft, wherein they work with combos. Using one ability empowers another ability. That ability will in turn empower another ability. And oftentimes, as I'm now starting to go through my class's max level abilities, it's about making a specific choice whenever I do it. So for example, I will first use my stabby, or actually my fast blade into my stabby ability. I don't know what it's called, but my fast blade empowers my stabby ability. My stabby ability will empower something like 3 or 4 different abilities. Some of them damage over time abilities, others just straight up damage abilities. But then the damage over time abilities can also somehow empower other abilities. So as you can see here, it becomes a very weird sort of system of combos that you're consistently keeping track of to ensure that you're actually doing optimal damage. This feels incredibly rewarding to play. Now compare that to World of Warcraft, and again, I'm not trying to shit on World of Warcraft here, but so many classes and so many specs feel so unrewarding whenever you're playing them. I mean, sure, it's your spec, you're doing it, it's fine, but it doesn't reward you. You don't feel as if you are actually, you're actually being challenged by the class that you're playing. Whereas that's not what I'm feeling whenever I play Final Fantasy. I have a lot more buttons that I'm pressing currently in Final Fantasy, and I'm only level 53. And I have a lot more buttons that I'm pressing in Final Fantasy than versus World of Warcraft. In World of Warcraft, there's about 6 buttons that I'm always pressing, and a few buttons that I'm pressing every once in a while. Whereas in Final Fantasy, I'm already at about 7 or 8 buttons that's consistently being used by my class, and looking at the abilities that I'm yet to get, I think that's going to get far more. I'm going to get far more abilities that I'm going to have to be pressing. So at the end of the day, the class design, I'm not saying World of Warcraft should borrow everything that Final Fantasy is doing, but I do think that there is a subset or a philosophical idea that Blizzard can absolutely borrow from Final Fantasy and incorporate that into World of Warcraft. You know, the days of having an actual rotation rather than a priority system. Those were days that were actually fun, because breaking your rotation would mean losing DPS, versus nowadays the priority system, basically there is just one button to press, and that's the button that you're going to press, regardless. Number 4, flying and the world. Now, on this, I'm going to talk very briefly. I don't want to waste too much time, because we all know, every single one of us, flying in World of Warcraft is incredibly boring. It's necessary because the world becomes incredibly boring if you don't have flying, but flying itself is a feature that exists simply to take away from the game. When you get flying, you skip most of the world and you just do the things that you quickly want to do. Final Fantasy does it very, very differently. So in every single zone that you go into Final Fantasy, and this is true not for the base game, so in A Realm Reborn, once you're at level 50, you get flying and your mounts can fly. That's it. But in the expansions, however, every zone has what is called ether ways. These ether ways, there are 10 points that have to be activated. 5 of them will be given to you, and this is what I'm led to believe, whilst leveling. So whilst you're doing the main quest line, you will get these 5 points. The other 5 is activated and while exploring. So you have to discover the other 5 and then activate them. Once all 10 of the ether ways have been activated, you can fly in that zone. So now flying is unlocked in that zone for you. So you were actively part of it. You were unlocking it, and now you're rewarded for unlocking it. So they ask you to do the first time in the zone on your 2 feet, but then after that, you can move in the zone as much as you want. There really isn't anything. Now, do I think that there's more that can be done in Final Fantasy with the mounts? Of course. I have the same feedback that I have in World of Warcraft with Final Fantasy, but here's the thing. In Final Fantasy, for example, your mount can actually fight with you, right? So you can actually train your mounts. There's combat training that you can do with your mounts so that your mount will become either a tank, a healer, or a DPS for you, depending on what you require your mount to be. This is an interesting way to use the mount. Mounts can be geared. There's specific gear that mounts can have. All of this means that mounts become an integral part of the game. That's not even to talk about professions in Final Fantasy, which is part of flying and the world. When you talk about professions, again, this would be too long a video to actually discuss what professions are in Final Fantasy, but let me just say, they're basically classes. They have their own stories, their own storylines. It's an entire different thing. It's like a game within the game. Whenever you do professions in Final Fantasy, you have different weapons whenever you do professions. So you have that weapon, you become that profession. There's even stuff like field gear that improves your profession skill, allows you to mine faster or gain more materials. All of this is part of the Final Fantasy experience. You're going to use your equipment sets to do exactly that. Since, yes, there's gear for farming or for collecting or for crafting, and that gear is going to allow you to do more of the things that you actually want to do, which is the point. Professions is its own thing. It exists in its own bubble, and yes, it does help out your class because you can make stuff with it, but at the end of the day, you're rewarded for your professions. Compare that to World of Warcraft. What reward? where? And then finally, the fifth point in this video is this. These are the things, the mantra that the Final Fantasy developers have with them every single time they think about new expansions, new content, and how to impact and influence the game and the fans around them. The first one is never forget the fans. It feels like a very PR statement, but considering how people feel about Final Fantasy, how the players in Final Fantasy feel about the game, it rings true. Every single time these developers come out with a new expansion, the players are hyped as fuck for that expansion, and they love that expansion. There's very few people that play Final Fantasy, get to the expansion, the max level, and then hate new expansions. They seem to be extremely positive whenever this comes. The next is actually the thing that I believe World of Warcraft should absolutely learn from Final Fantasy. Fun comes first. If it isn't fun, you're doing it wrong. And this is not something that they're telling their fans, which is sometimes what I feel like World of Warcraft does. In World of Warcraft, it feels as if they go, well, you know, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong, because this is the most fun way to do it. Versus what Final Fantasy does is, if the players aren't having fun in the system of a thing that you're doing, then you are doing it wrong. You're making mistakes. You should go back. You should look at what you're doing, why you're doing it the X way or Y way or however you want to do it, because it's not working. Because I can tell you right now, of everything that I've done in Final Fantasy, there's nothing that I hate. There's not a single part of Final Fantasy so far that I feel is boring or that I don't enjoy. Whenever I get into a new dungeon, a trial, it's all fun stuff. It's fun things that I want to do. And speaking to people at max level, this is exactly the point. You are in the fun. You can choose what you wish to do, what you find fun, and then only do those things. You're not forced to do anything that you do not find fun in Final Fantasy, which I think is perhaps the biggest thing that World of Warcraft developers must learn at this point. When your players tell you that they do not enjoy Torghast, simply doubling down and increasing the rewards for Torghast is not the fix for Torghast. If you wish to fix Torghast, you have to go look at why players aren't having fun in the system. The rewards simply force players to do the system. It doesn't make the system fun. If you're implementing something simply because you want to give a reward at the end of the something, then maybe that something shouldn't exist in the game to begin with. Maybe you should then change the something to something that actually exists for the fun of it, where the reward is simply the cherry on top. The reward just makes it more fun because you get something cool at the end of it. This is the only thing that I think, if Blizzard learns anything from this video, it's this. Fun must always come first. You cannot design a game with rewards first, fun second, because that seems to be Blizzard's design philosophy. Rewards are always at the forefront of their minds. What do we reward players with? And then they sort of go, okay, so we have to get some stuff that they need to do so that they can get the rewards. That's not how you design a good game, Blizzard. Rewards is not good game development. You develop the game, you develop the systems, you make them fun, and then the rewards are on top. They make it even more fun. But you can't turn a piece of shit into fun content simply by adding a reward to it. It just doesn't work that way. So to end off this video and to basically give you just a consolidation of thoughts on this topic, I'm not saying that World of Warcraft is in a bad place. I'm not saying that World of Warcraft is an unfixable place. I'm saying there are small issues right now that holds World of Warcraft back from being the game that I believe it can be. And I genuinely believe that World of Warcraft can once again be a 10 million player MMO. I genuinely believe that. If World of Warcraft made a few minor adjustments, it could once again be the game that we all believe it to be, that we all know in our hearts this game that we love can be. So this video was simply me trying to word that, trying to word the biggest things that I've learned from playing Final Fantasy, and hoping that someone at Blizzard spends the 30 minutes or something to watch the video. I doubt that anyone from Blizzard will watch this video, but if they do, hopefully, they take something away from it. Hopefully you've taken something away from it. Maybe it's made you want to play Final Fantasy. Maybe it's made you go, well, fuck you, Aquilon. I'm just going to play more World of Warcraft now because of this video. Either way is absolutely fine with me. If you like this video, if you like videos like this one, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, of course, smash that bell that notifies you whenever I do have another video for you. To all of the patrons, the Twitch subs, and of course the YouTube channel members, thank you so much for your monthly contributions. It does mean the world to me. Thanks to you guys, this channel is growing every single day, and I quite literally wouldn't be here without you, so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Guys, it was my name is Aquilon, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, fam.